Hey, my people, what's good? Welcome to the Two Tobys podcast. I know it's been a hot minute. On the mic is Corey as usual, and I have here with me my man Toby.
This is Toby.
Yes. It's the Two Tobys podcast. For those wondering, there's nothing really clever about the name. It's just both our names happen to be Toby. My middle name is Toby, and his name is Toby. And yeah. And for those that are wondering, we talk about politics. We talk a lot about politics on here, controversial topics, culture, history. My boy Toby here is very, very versed in a lot of historical facts, a little too much that I can bear. So he's my encyclopedia here for those wondering. But a lot has happened since last time we came. This is episode, I think 7 or 8. I'm not sure. There were like 2 episodes that I didn't air. It was right after the elections, the January 6th shenanigans. I purposely didn't air those episodes because, it was kind of hot at the time. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't trying to get deplatformed. You know how they were doing with people that were talking about the riot?
Yeah.
And if they didn't have anything negative to say about it, it was seen as you were somehow promoting the violence and the insurrection. Mm-hmm. So I kind of put that on ice for now. I am still going to put it out because we had a few hot takes in that episode. We talked about a few things in that episode,
such as the definition of what oku actually is. Exactly.
But it was too hot for me to put out, and I'm not rich enough to be just putting everything out there like that. But moving on to other things, man. Toby, how you been, man? It's been a hot minute. It's been a few months, been at least 2 months since the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
You're still in the capital.
I'm still here.
You're still you're trying to get out of the capital, aren't you?
I'm still here. But I mean, things are going well.
Things are going well.
I mean, personally, professionally.
Oh, that's great.
I'm doing well.
That's great to hear. You also cut your hair, for those wondering.
Yes.
Toby used to have this crazy.
Yes.
Crazy.
Should I call it a fro or
crazy fro?
Really a fro.
Crazy fro. But yeah, that was. I felt like that was like your signature look. Now it's like it's different. I'm trying to get used to this new clean shaven look.
I know.
What else has happened since then? I actually went to Orlando.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was in Orlando. I went there for like a family vacation. Orlando is where Toby was originally from, mm-hmm. and where he's been trying to go back to now for the last couple of months. Mm-hmm. I know you're sick of DC.
Big time.
All right, so let's get right into it, man. We are a lot of topics that we have on deck today, and the very first one that I want to talk about is the whole Nicki Minaj snafu. She's been on Twitter. She's been very vocal. I think they underestimated how stubborn Nicki Minaj can be. And, I follow like entertainment topics, hip hop, Afrobeat, all these genres. I have another podcast, Smiling Suffer podcast, where I talk about some of those things. So I've known about, Nicki Minaj being very, very stubborn. You can't pin her in a corner.
Yep.
She will press P on you. Like she doesn't know how to back down.
Yep. And
something happened recently. Now, I've seen her get into rap beefs with people where she was ready to air them out. Like she did an impromptu Queen radio session on Apple, where she can just go on this Apple channel that she has and just air out everything that she's feeling. She did it when she had this huge beef with Cardi B. It was very big at the time. Like she went out there and she wasn't. And this was back when Cardi B was supposed to be like the industry darling. She was coming up. She wasn't trying to hit none of that, man. Cardi B was coming at everybody, and anyone that chose to take her side, she would drag them and insult them. I've always felt like there was part of it that I just always felt like it was kind of childish, like she was too grown for stuff like that. But this time around, she got into the political waters, and I don't think she knew that what she was getting into. She made a comment about COVID, and the way it started very innocently. What I think she underestimated, maybe you can expand more on this is COVID is a very politically divisive topic in America right now. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It is one of those. I haven't talked about it, and this is I have another pod, the Courageous Pod, where I try to talk about things that take a little bit of courage. I haven't been able to touch COVID because I know just how sensitive it is. The way it works is, if you raise any kind of doubt or say anything that puts into doubt the efficacy of the vaccines, or you're against like mandates, or if you do any kind of questioning, right off the bat, you're seen as an anti-vaxxer. And on the other spectrum, right, if you're seen as someone that is willing to embrace the vaccine and is willing to embrace like some of these mandates and restrictions, you're automatically seen as like this, pro-vaxxer that you're threatening everyone's freedom. It's very extreme on both ends. There's no in between. There's no, it's almost like you can't have a nuanced position. You're either for or against.
Absolutely.
And what happened was someone had asked Nicki Minaj, I think one of her fans. And by the way, Nicki Minaj is very influential. She has over 20 million followers on Twitter. So she's very influential. And someone had asked her about vaccines or whatnot. And I'll read to you exactly what she said, word for word, because it was several tweets. Mm-hmm. They had asked her about, let me see here. They had asked her about, it was the Met Gala. So an article had come out suggesting that Nicki didn't want to go to the Met Gala because she didn't want to take a vaccine. At the Met Gala, they required people to take the vaccines so that they wouldn't have to wear masks or whatever. And there were a lot of celebrities that didn't show up. And they had asked Nicki about it. And in the article, according to Nicki, she had cited that the reason why she didn't go was because she just had a child. She just had a son not too long ago, a couple months ago. That was her reasoning. However, the article had suggested that she didn't want to do it because of the COVID vaccines. So I think between all that back and forth and that confusion, she had responded to one of her fans. One of her responses was that, look, they want you to get vaccinated for the Met. If I get vaccinated, it won't be for the Met. It'll be once I feel I've done enough research. I'm working on that now. In the meantime, my loves, be safe. Wear the mask with 2 strings that grips your head and face, not that loose one. She goes on. She was replying to another one of her fans. I think what her fans were saying, it doesn't sound like she hasn't, obviously she has a lot of fans. Some people are coming to her defense. It doesn't sound like she hasn't. It doesn't sound like she's anti-vax, because this was people started calling her anti-vax. It doesn't sound like she's anti-vax. She just wants to do more research. I was the same way before I got it. I didn't trust it, but I did my research and then I got it. Blog's gonna drag this though. I can see it now. This was back. Here the blogs were. It was still like the hip hop blogs that were covering it. It hadn't really gotten to the mainstream yet. But things escalated within a day, within a few hours. She replies, "Who cares what blogs gonna do? Y'all always worried about blogs. This my real effing life. They can choke." She's a stubborn girl, man. Yo, she doesn't give a crap.
What's her tagline again for her Twitter?
I don't know. Hold on a second. Rudest little madam. Rudest little madam. And then she goes on to say, this is the tweet that got everyone's attention. She was, this is her responding to her fans, pushing back against the blogs. And then she goes on to tweet, my cousin in Trinidad won't get the vaccine because his friend got it and became impotent. His testicles became swollen. His friend was weeks away from getting married. Now the girl called off the wedding. So just pray on it and make sure you're comfortable with your decision. Not bullied. This was a tweet that got everyone's attention.
The funny thing is, some baseball player came out earlier today saying the same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
I'll try to pull it up. Give me a second. Let's hope
But you see, in this tweet, she's not saying the vaccine necessarily. She's not. She's suggesting. She's inferring, but she's not necessarily saying it like this is what caused it. She's just saying that, look, my cousin told me this, so I don't know how true. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's not really saying anything. However, I can see how people would say that it's irresponsible. She has a bigger platform, and I can see how people would say that she could possibly scare people that really need the vaccine from getting it. Mm-hmm. So I understand why a lot of people found it irresponsible of her to tweet that. But you see, that wasn't the only tweet. The next tweet after that, someone had said, I had to get the vaccine because they wouldn't let me look for a job or get a job and to earn some money. And no, I'm unsure about getting the second vaccine. She said, I know, babe. A lot of countries won't let people work without the vaccine. I definitely recommend they get the vaccine. This was like the next tweet after that. I definitely recommend they get the vaccine. They have to feed their families. I'm sure I'll be vaccinated as well because I have to go on tour, etc. So, like, this isn't someone that's an anti-vaxxer, is my point. Yes, you can say she's showing some vaccine hesitancy, but she says she's looking to do a research. But she goes on, she's not done. I'm not even done yet. There's another tweet where she goes on to say, someone said, same here, babe, double dose, no COVID. Only people I know who got it so far didn't have the vaccine. Everything has a risk. Even an over-the-counter painkiller has a long list of side effects of the pack. She said, well said, babe. I'm glad you're okay. Would have went nuts if something would have happened to my pudding pup. And then, she's going on. She's asking a poll about who got what vaccines. And then at that point, everything just opened up. You had people just mainstream media coming for her. Joy Ann Reid was the very first one that got into the mix. Here is what she said.
And people like Nicki Minaj, I have to say this. You have a platform, sister, that is 22 million followers. Okay, I have 2 million followers. You have 22 million followers on Twitter. For you to use your platform to encourage our community to not protect themselves and save their lives, my God, sister, you could do better than that. You got that platform. It's a blessing. It's a blessing that you got that people listen to you. And they listen to you more than they listen to me. For you to use your platform to put people in the position of dying from a disease they don't have to die from, oh, my God. As a fan, as a hip-hop fan, as somebody who was your fan, I'm so sad that you did that. So sad that you did that, sister. Oh, my God. And
of course, Joy and Nicki Minaj saw this and responded almost immediately. This is what happens when you're so thirsty to down another black woman by the request of the white man that you didn't bother to read all my tweets, which is what I'm saying. There were a bunch of other tweets that were completely ignored, and they chose to focus on this one tweet. I'm breaking this down because I want to show people how the media operates, how the mainstream media, and I know people say mainstream media a lot without it meaning anything. There is a mainstream media. We've talked about this before. We've talked about this on the Two Tobies podcast. There is a mainstream media that they're a collective of people that they generally are on the same page. My God, sister, do better. Imagine getting your dumbass on the TV a minute after a tweet to spread a false narrative about a black man. This was the same day, September 13th. It all happened within the same day. At some point, she's retweeting her previous tweets about recommending people get the vaccine. It's ridiculous. Now, look at these headlines. This one's from the Daily Beast. Nicki Minaj won't get vaxxed. Nicki Minaj won't get vaxxed. Says she's worried about swollen testicles. That's the headline. If we're really worried about people's vaccine hesitancy, why would you spend so much time on the part of the tweets where it's like a throwaway tweet? She just said, look, my cousin told me this. And I understand people will say, yeah, it's irresponsible, but there are other tweets there. Why wouldn't you highlight the other tweets? Why wouldn't you? If someone that is not even following the news sees this right off the bat, they're going to look, swollen testicles, it doesn't matter whether they believe it or not. They're going to suddenly start thinking in their head, the vaccine, there's a debate going on that's saying the vaccine could possibly give you swollen testicles. That's what they're thinking. Now, other people are going to think, oh, stupid, but there are going to be some people that just think, oh, Nicki Minaj said that. I wonder if there's some truth to it. And then you have some people who are just waiting, the doomsday theorists, the conspiracy theorists, that these are they're waiting. You're playing right into their hands. We're being divisive as a result. This headline was unnecessary. You're doing more to promote vaccine hesitancy.
Well, here's the thing. The headline gives clicks.
That's the thing. That's the problem. She replies to the Daily Beast. Please show me where I said I'm worried about anything. Yes, I'm glad you guys get to see how the media really works. I'll have them contacted along with others. I mean, this thing kept going back and forth, back and forth. She keeps retweeting her tweets where she's talking about recommending the vaccine for people, but they ignore. And all you keep seeing are headlines like this. Headlines like this. Nicki Minaj says she refused to get vaccinated for the Met Gala. Fans respond with research. That's not what she said. She said that she wouldn't get the vaccine for the Met Gala. Nicki Minaj says she's skipping Met Gala over its vaccine requirement. Nicki Minaj wouldn't get vaccinated. She's worried about swollen testicles. But the media really gravitated towards the swollen testicles ones because obviously that's a headline grabber. I mean, and of course, you know, Twitter, they did their thing. They were posting all these memes about swollen it was kind of hilarious, but you know, all of a sudden we're all talking about swollen testicles. Like, this is the media that we're talking about here.
I mean, what they call it, in my own opinion, there are 1,000,001 ways in which this whole Nicki Minaj incident could be cut. We can look at the whole aspect of black celebrities being influencers.
Yes.
We can
and that's what I want to get into.
We can look at the whole aspect of people like Joanne Reid. There are 1,000,001 ways in which this whole thing can be cut. And before we get in, I'll just quickly say mine. Mm-hmm. Mine is, if you listen to what Joanne Reid said, her basic pitch basically is you have a bigger platform of over 20 million people.
Yes.
Why don't you use your platform to get out to people? And what I will basically say is, in a sense, such responsibility and pressure is being put on someone who it shouldn't be put on.
She's a rapper.
I know.
She's a rapper that raps around. I like big butts. What are we talking about here?
And one thing I would also add is, if I'm not wrong, tell me if I'm wrong here. Mm-hmm. When I listened to that video clip towards the very end, Joanne Reid said something to the effect of Nicki, what are you doing? Look at how badly COVID is decimating the whole community, which is the black community.
Yeah.
And I will say mine about why COVID is decimating the black community. I know no one wants to hear it, but it's the truth.
Let's talk about it.
Obesity. That's no one wants to hear that, but let's be truthful. Obesity is a huge factor.
Expand on that. So I guess what you're trying to say is that and I know where you're going with that. I think it's about almost 70%, don't quote me on it, but it's 70% of the people that have been hospitalized or died from COVID. Okay, I'm not even going to put out a figure there. A very, very significant proportion of the people that have caught COVID and died had comorbidities.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of people ignore. Now, it doesn't mean a regular healthy person can catch COVID.
It just means they have a higher chance of catching COVID.
It means they have a higher chance of catching, if you're obese or if you have some kind of comorbidity, anyone can catch COVID. You just have a higher chance of being hospitalized and dying from the COVID when you have comorbidities. We have that has been established.
Yeah.
The data shows that
Yeah.
that there's a higher chance that you will struggle with it. You're saying that in the black community there's far more obesity. I don't know if that's necessarily true, because America in general,
No.
there's an obesity problem.
No one doubts.
There, I think over 50% of the population is overweight in America. Over 50%.
I mean, like,
So that's not necessarily a black thing,
No.
is it?
no one doubts that what they call it, that like obesity, just broadly speaking, is a huge national pandemic.
It is.
But still, even then, within the black community itself,
Mhm.
obesity is even still a deeper problem, on top of all the comorbidities and pre-existing health conditions and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So, which is why, ideally, throughout this whole COVID thing, and I guess like the whole is it the Surgeon General who was the black Surgeon General who was
I remember
was talking about like
the one under
exercise.
Trump.
I mean, like,
I remember. Do you remember?
mean,
He came out. He
yeah.
had this whole big conference where he was talking about
Exercise.
drink less,
Yeah.
stop smoking, exercise more, try not to live sedentary lifestyles. And he was talking to America, and they clowned him for it. They said that it was almost like he was, because he was directing a lot of it towards the black community,
yeah,
right?
people said like it was
I remember
like,
that.
like he was lecturing the black community, or like,
Yes, but what he was saying was true.
Yeah,
It was
I mean-
true.
I mean, and one thing I would add, just like even show more proof that like, yes, that like COVID has basically decimated the whole world.
It has.
But like one thing which people never talk about is look at all these Asian countries where it seems like they've done relatively, and that's a key word, really.
Relatively better.
Better. They don't have an obesity crisis or many of these things.
They don't. But then some people will also argue that they do have more authoritarian governments that are able to impose more effective mandates versus America, where there's more freedom and more resistance towards the government. No, but you can make that argument.
I know.
That they've been able to mobilize better just because they're more authoritarian.
I mean, like one thing I would add to that, and this is kind of going on a tangent.
Yeah.
And I know many people hate to hear things like this because
No, it
goes against people's
let's speak the
preconceived
truth. Let's speak the
notions.
truth, and let's put it out there.
On some metrics, people have begun arguing that actually Asian countries are freer than the West in general.
You think so?
And there was a time whereby I would have dismissed something like that, but in a way,
What's the evidence to support that? Like, what would be the underlying?
like one thing which many people say, and I've heard this from people who necessarily no one can pinpoint them politically or anything, or even from the most unusual people who you never expect to hear things like that, say things like people should just count the number of regulations in daily Western life versus more of the Eastern countries. Like people should okay. I know this is kind of going on a tangent,
we should wrap it.
yeah,
We should wrap
yeah,
this point up.
But it's still part of it. Like
Okay.
some people say like for example, there's this really famous VC stroke tech guy called Sam Altman.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, he was like he was in Beijing for like some conference or something, and he just began speaking what was on his mind. And while he was speaking, it clicked to him that what I'm saying, can I openly say this in Silicon Valley?
Okay. Yeah, but then in China is same place that have the Uyghurs, and that's an example
Yes.
of a community that has been
Absolutely.
that has suffered heavy-handed
True.
tactics.
True.
So it's hard to make that, and I understand. Yes, we are more in America, in Silicon Valley. They're more politically correct. So there's certain things that you can't say in terms of speech, but there are also certain things that you can't say in Beijing. You can't
Absolutely.
You cannot criticize the government, or
He'll be
you're out of
whisked
there.
out.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's relative too.
Which is why I said that in a way, I kind of,
Yeah.
do agree, and also in a way I don't agree.
But let's go back to this
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj thing. So the media hasn't stopped coming for her. You had people like Jimmy Fallon clowning her. You've had people like Don Lemon coming for her.
Don Lemon.
I mean, all these talking heads. You even had Fauci respond directly to her. They asked Fauci about it. And I forgot what Fauci said, but Fauci obviously was like, "Yeah, no, there's no proof that's swollen testicles."
And then you heard about like the whole dachshund thing.
I'll get to that. So, like, even the Prime Minister of the UK they were asking him about swollen testicles. This is ridiculous. They're going on about these swollen testicles. They're airing this stuff out even more. Do you understand that people that are prone to believe things like that, they're going to see that, and when they see it coming from news organizations like yours, they're already going to assume that whatever they're saying, I believe the opposite of.
Yeah.
There are people out there, they are doing more to spread the propaganda. And that's why I keep trying to explain to people. So, I'm talking to my friends about it, right? And, like my friends on the WhatsApp chats and WhatsApp groups, all they see is this swollen testicles and they're cracking up about it. But they don't understand that, first of all, they don't even know the context of our other tweets. And I'm not here to defend Nicki Minaj. I'm a fan of the fact that she's a great rapper. She's probably the greatest female rapper to have ever, been in the game.
Definitely.
But I'm not like it's not like I'm a barb. I'm not a male barb. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm seeing like people that I know going on and on about this swollen testicles thing without realizing that there was a lot more to what she was saying. And what you don't see, what people haven't realized is that they're trying to make a fool out of her. Like, it's almost like they're trying to,
and she isn't falling for the bait.
They're trying to completely tear down her credibility, everything that she's saying. They're trying to make her look crazy, and she's been responding to some of this stuff too, and then she did post something on her Instagram, and I'll put it in the post edits, where she was talking about, do you guys see what's happening here? Do you realize that this is the kind of stuff that they do in China, where they muzzle people and any kind of
opposing views,
they pretty much come for people and they attack people's credibility. And so they've been coming for her. They've been trying to make a fool out of her, and people have been eating up. People that are pro-vaccine, obviously they see that as another excuse to bash anti-vaxxers, and obviously and then also lump her in with anti-vaxxers, which she is not technically. Anti-vaxxer is someone that's anti-vax.
Yeah.
There are people that have questions, and this same thing happened to Joe Rogan. Remember?
Oh, the Joe Rogan one.
The same thing happened to Joe Rogan. Like, he came out. For those wondering, let me explain it. Something similar happened to Joe Rogan. In this case, he actually caught the COVID. And then he came out, gave a statement to let people know that, look, you guys, I caught the COVID. I kind of struggled with it. But I'm feeling better now. I took a bunch of things. He talked about the fact that he took, and I didn't want to say this stuff because now ivermectin.
Yeah,
ivermectin. He took monoclonal
antibodies.
And antibodies.
Yeah.
He took a bunch of other like experimental stuff, and he was just trying to tell people that, look, I'm feeling a little better now. I struggled a little bit, but the fact that he brought up ivermectin, guess what they did? They focused on that ivermectin, and because
they called it horse.
Because ivermectin also happens to be the same thing used to deworm horses. They made this about Joe Rogan is taking horse dewormer.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that, no, there's actually a version of ivermectin that's used for human beings.
And then
there's one that's used for horses. So they're spreading this thing out. And then there are all these other stories that are coming out about. There was this fake story that they ended up debunking, where they said that there was some state, I think it was Oklahoma, one of those states, that their hospitals were having issues with people that were having overdose of ivermectin of horse dewormer, and it turned out to be false. And the media ran with it. CNN ran with it. I keep trying to tell my friends that if you only get your news from these mainstream media, you're going to be really misinformed because you're not hearing the full story. They have an agenda, and the agenda really is to divide. It's to play to their audience. People that are already prone to believing what they say. They're playing to them.
Confirmation bias, basically.
Confirmation bias, and it's not. They ended up saying Joe Rogan was taking horse dewormer, and he didn't. And then they ignore the fact that he did get better. Now, it's not obvious whether it's not clear whether he got better because of the ivermectin or some of the other things he did. He could have just gotten better because maybe he happened to have a better immune system. We really don't know, but he did get better.
Yeah, he got better.
He did get better.
And I would also add something, and this comes back to like the whole thing about being very healthy.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan is a guy who takes his health seriously.
He does. He works
exercise, diet.
Yeah.
He's in
yoga,
top-notch, everything. So like the fact that like someone like him can pull through this,
yes,
is no surprise because that's someone who takes his health very seriously.
Yes,
that's something to know.
Yes, but going back to the Nicki Minaj, they're not done confronting. So because Nicki Minaj has been putting out all these statements and fighting back and telling people that, look, they're trying to assassinate my character, essentially. What happened? There was a reporter that happened to be digging around. This, her cousin of hers, right? Her cousin's friend, reached out to this person. I don't know how they got the information. And I'm going to post exactly what was said because Nicki Minaj exposed this text. The name of this reporter, I'll just read the text. Hi, good day. My name is now she's reaching out to this person that Nicki Minaj had talked about. Hi, my name is Nicki. Hi, my name is Charlene Rampersad. I am a reporter with Guardian Media. I was hoping to speak to you for an article. Would that be possible? Was it your friend Nicki was speaking about in her tweet? Okay, so this is the cousin. Mr. Daniel. Hey, good evening. Have you considered speaking to me? Like, there's no reply. She's just texting him. I am also hoping to have a conversation with your friend. I know you are hesitant to speak with us, but just letting you know, CNN is in the country looking for you. And when they find you, they won't hesitate to reveal where you live or where your girlfriend lives. Anything and anyone who is tied to you. If you speak to me, we won't reveal those details. So what do you say? That is a threat. That is a threat for doxing. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's a threat to dox somebody. So Nicki Minaj posts these texts showing that there's a reporter that's harassing her cousin or whatever, her family members. She goes on to put on her IG story, threatening my family in Trinidad won't bode well for you. In Trinidad, harassing my family. I didn't want to give details, but now I will. She posted the lady's
phone number.
Or the lady's, she posted someone's business card. It's not the lady, someone else's business. Maybe someone that was associated. I'm not going to say what it was. They're forcing my family to have to hide out. This is what speaking up looks like. Millions of poor people are treated this way by the people you think are the good guys. This is unconscionable. Charlene Rampersad, B word, your days are effing numbered. You dirty HOE. Yo, she's like, she doesn't back down. She doesn't back down. But guess what? Guess what the headlines are saying?
What?
Nicki Minaj doxes reporters. Which I guess is true, but you're missing the context. She's responding to someone
who was threatening
to dox her. See, Nicki Minaj seeks her fans on reporters. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And
in my own opinion, it's proportionate.
Oh, hell yeah, it's proportionate. She threatened the guy that we're going to put your family story out there. I mean, watching this whole thing, it has been a reminder. You see, and this is where I want to get into what Nicki Minaj is doing is she's essentially red pilling a lot of her followers.
Absolutely,
She is.
in real time.
Have you seen her followers that went to I think one of those news stations or something? They went somewhere. They were out there picketing.
No,
in support of her.
no.
She is red pilling a lot of people because her fans are not, at least her strongest fans are not going to leave her.
Yeah,
And they can see the cognitive dissonance
And the
when it comes to
manipulation.
this, and the manipulation when it comes to this reporting. And I was thinking about it. I kept thinking about it. I was like, damn, I remember when I got, and I'm not, for the most part, I'm not part of the red pill community. There is a community out there that they call themselves red pill community. The first time I was exposed to what being red pilled means was politically. I understand what it means to be red pilled politically. Essentially, if you happen to have been a follower of the Democrats, you were a liberal, like I used to be, I was a registered Democrat. There comes a time where you actually see the Democrat for what they are. And that's not saying that the Republican Party is necessarily the right alternative. They're all full of crap. The problem was back then, I thought the Democrats were the ones that were protecting me from them, until I realized that the Democrats are just as bad, if not worse, in certain aspects. And when I got red pilled was when I was following Bernie Sanders. I was a big,
millions of people were red pilled by Bernie Sanders.
I was a big supporter of Bernie Sanders during that first campaign, and I saw the media coverage. And it's very similar to what I'm seeing here with Nicki Minaj, where it's like the Nicki Minaj fans are seeing something, but on the media side of it, on these articles,
it's something else.
It's almost like they're in an alternate universe. That's what it means to be red pilled. It's almost like you start understanding, oh crap, these people are nothing but a propaganda arm for leftist agendas.
Actually, let me define what the whole red pill thing is. The whole red pill thing really is you come to the realization that people in certain institutions, including the media, their job basically, number one, is to manipulate your reality and protect very sinister people by manipulating you. It's really that simple.
You know, another thing that people are missing when it comes to this whole COVID vaccines, and again, look, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm vaccinated. So I'm not like I can't be an anti-vaxxer and get the vaccine.
Exactly.
I had my reasons for getting the vaccine. Obviously, there's certain statistics and data that I see out there that also make me wonder, like, how effective are these vaccinations?
Absolutely true.
But I don't doubt that looking at the data, it's pretty clear, at least so far, the data so far, it looks like the vaccines reduce the chances of being very critically ill or even possibly dying.
True.
Like,
absolutely.
the data shows that.
Absolutely.
So I can stand on that. I am not an anti-vaxxer. But I also understand that there is something about what they initially said about how effective these vaccines were going to be and
what it turned out to be.
Yeah. People forget that the initial assumption was that if you got COVID vaccine, you couldn't catch it.
Yes.
And even if you caught it, you couldn't necessarily pass it on. That has turned out not to be true. You can still catch it. Now, yes, your chances of severe illness may lessen, but you can still catch it. You see, that's something that they're not really being honest about. Like, that's when you're not being forthcoming and saying, okay, look, we thought it was this, but this is the case. You're going to have more people doubting. Now, here's another factor. And this is not me being a conspiracy theorist. People have to understand the biggest sponsors of the mainstream media. What industry is it?
Pharma.
Like, do you realize what's going on here? Like, and this is not me trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but what I'm trying to tell you is that the media has a vested interest. If you watch CNN, Fox News, all these channels, like, all I see when it comes to commercials, if it's on Fox News,
that thing is actually very true. Between programs. It's always
it's always drugs.
It's always some
It's always drugs that they're advertising. They're the biggest sponsors.
It's very true.
They're the biggest sponsors. It's not big oil. It's pharma. It's big pharma. And what people don't realize, and I'm not saying, the big pharma, they're all colluding, but you have to understand, what you have to understand is that all these pharmaceutical companies that are producing these things, they already have interest. They have partnerships with a lot of these outlets.
Yeah.
A lot of these outlets are surviving
because of the ad money which comes in.
So you have to understand, and I'm glad that you're helping me finish my sentences. What you have to understand is that this stuff, these medications. I mean, you had Purdue, right? They just settled a lawsuit for almost $500 million because of Oxycontin.
Yep.
This idea that we just have to accept anything and not have a questioning attitude. It's crazy. I'm not saying be an anti-vaxxer. I'm saying we have to be able to question it. Are you kidding me?
One thing I I'll say about like pharma in general, and it's something I've always said, and this is kind of going on a tangent, and it has to do with healthcare and the whole system. Is one thing I've always said, and I've always said it on the chat group, is whenever people talk about affordability of healthcare in the United States, no one anywhere is talking about what they should be talking about or hitting what should be hit. Both on the left, where they talk about single payer, or on the right, where they are. I'll be blunt. The Republican Party, when it talks about healthcare, looks effing clueless.
Yeah, they don't really have a.
They look clueless, comically clueless. But here's the point I'll make: a huge thing, which, if anyone is serious about reining in healthcare costs, are two things: intellectual property and patents.
Yeah.
And the government's buying drugs directly.
Yeah.
Because look at it this way.
And that's what vaccines are.
Look at it this way. Basically, what's going on with the vaccines basically is the government is basically the one paying for everyone. And think about it this way. I'm not trying to suggest anything here, but just use your imagination. What happens to companies like AstraZeneca,
AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, on the day COVID ends and there is no need to buy pharmaceuticals? I'll just leave it there. Think about it.
Some people would argue that they have other streams of, they have other drugs that they're gonna have. I don't want to suggest that this is some kind of, because there's data to show that these have been effective too. The problem now is that they're starting to talk mandates. That's another dicey situation where it's you're saying that people don't have a choice anymore. Biden gave that speech where he was like, we're tired, or something we're tired of waiting, or it was a very, very Darth Vader type speech. Where he was saying that, look, we're getting tired of you guys. We're going to mandate it now. And now they're starting to mandate it for federal workers. They tried doing it for healthcare workers. You know what happened?
Many began saying no.
A lot of nurses, they were letting go of a lot of nurses, and then they had a deficit in people to actually take care of the people getting sick. So they had to stop that. Did you know that? They initially tried to mandate it for the healthcare workers. A lot of them said no, healthcare workers. Do you know the group of people that are most vaccine hesitant in terms of college and education?
White, highly educated PhD holders who in many cases are firmly Mr. Biden's constituency.
Can you believe this? Can you believe when I saw that chart? The PhD holders, the people that are supposed to be the smartest among us, they're the ones not taking the vaccine the most. And the more the people that are more likely to take the vaccine are like the young college educated people. I mean, they're just some of this stuff that I'm just like, are you like, you can't expect people to see all these things around them and just be like, embracing.
I mean, like, one thing I would say, and I've said this before, if you look at the whole thing about the mandates, like, here is my own opinion. Like,
yes,
if we really want to like increase like the vaccination rate,
yep,
what needs to be done is a very conciliatory approach needs to be taken. And when I say a very conciliatory approach, you know, Biden should you know, come out and say, you know, there are people out there who have fears, they have questions. It's a very natural thing. I'm your president. I promised unity. I'm not trying to force you, but in the next couple of weeks, months, I would like to move people along and for us to have dialogue. I understand how, you know, you people want to go back to your normal life as soon as possible.
So basically, a very, very conciliatory tone.
Yeah, very conciliatory. I can promise you, if he tries that, the vaccine rate will see.
When you try to shove it down people's throats, that's when you're going to get resistant. Americans, they're very, very resistant. Yeah. Like it's in our constitution. One of the things that we fear most is a tyrannical government.
Absolutely.
And all their moves are making them look like they're
tyrannical government.
Like they're ready to like cause tyranny.
Absolutely.
Look at Australia. Have you seen Australia?
The riots in Australia breaking through police. And here's also like something else about Australia which people should consider. Right now in this country, like the like fully vaccinated percentage is around 54%.
Yeah.
Somewhere there. Do you know the rates for Australia?
What?
Google. Type in Australia.
No, just tell me.
It's in the 30s, if I'm not wrong.
Oh wow.
Even with like the harsh lockdowns.
Wow.
It's actually kind of really.
You know what country has the highest? Israel.
Yeah. Israel has about 80%, and still they're having.
No, I think it's like 70%.
It's more like 80.
Really?
I saw it yesterday.
And they were ahead in terms of vaccines. Like they had said taking vaccines early on.
Yeah, like in terms of deploying, like Israel did everything on point,
and they still struggled.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was because of Israel that we found out that the vaccinated people were still getting it.
Yep.
Now, the unvaccinated were like the vast majority of the people that were ending up in hospitals. Although those percentages kind of changed as time went through, they rolled out the booster shots too, and now here they're talking about rolling out the booster shots here. Now, last that I checked, I don't know if the story has changed. The FDA, they did not approve.
Yeah, they voiced it down. No, like, was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was. I think it was yesterday. What was their reasoning? I wasn't sure. Now, I know initially the WHO was against it because they said that there were other countries that didn't get enough of the shots. But do you know what the FDA reasoning was?
I don't know the exact FDA reasoning.
I'll look it up and I'll put it. I'll put it in the post edit.
I mean, I'll probably imagine that some of the people, like people who wouldn't know, they probably had reservations about, like, you know, for how long it's been tested and things like that. Yeah,
that's the thing. We, at least with the regular shots, we kind of had some data on the effects. We don't really know the long-term effects of the vaccine still.
Absolutely.
But at least we kind of knew the short-term effects. With the booster shots, we don't know what those effects would look like,
or whether even additional boosters would still be
effective.
Yeah.
They are saying that the vaccine does wear off after some time for some people, depending. The data has been kind of all over the place. But the ones that we're sure, we've kind of like broken it down for you. We know that the vaccines reduce the possibility of hospitalized and deaths. We know that having the vaccine doesn't necessarily mean you wouldn't catch it and spread it.
True.
It also doesn't mean that you still won't get hospitalized. It's just it reduces the chances. We know that the vaccines in some cases tend to wear off. They're saying I think they said even the Pfizer one that I think 6 to 8 months or something like that. it may wear off, which is why they're talking about introducing booster
So
shots. I've taken the vaccines, and that's all I'm going to say on it. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or you shouldn't. I would say, look, talk to your doctor. If you do have comorbidities, if you have comorbidities, I'm not going to recommend either way, but you really should consider.
Absolutely,
you really should consider.
Yeah,
because that thing is not. One of my cousins today. I saw him today. He doesn't have necessarily comorbidity. I don't know if he does or not. I mean, he's a little on the bigger side, obviously. He has long COVID. Have you ever heard of long COVID?
What's long COVID?
It's like when you're still suffering the effects of COVID long after. And he caught it when he was in Nigeria. He says that he can't really, like, when he walks up a flight of steps, he kind of loses like his breath. Because the COVID does some scarring on your lungs.
Yes, your lungs.
So, there's a lot of. It's definitely a very, very serious disease. It's definitely a very serious disease. But that's really all I'm going to say on it. I don't want to come off like I'm some kind of expert, because I'm not.
I mean, like, one thing which I actually feel we should go back to, which we haven't really talked about that much, is Nicki Minaj and the phenomenon of black celebrities being influencers.
Yes. I think that's a good point. Before we do that, though, before we get into that, I want to mention one more thing in regards to COVID. So there was this video that I saw that I just thought it was very interesting. This was from Bill Maher. I'm going to play it. The Bill Maher show. Oh no, he was on Jimmy Kimmel. This is him. Oh. What happened? Let me refresh. He was on the Jimmy Kimmel show, and this is what he had to say about the vaccines. Okay.
What do you think the change? But I have to cite a survey that was in the New York Times, which is a liberal paper, so they weren't looking for this answer. But they were talking about this. The question was, what do you think the chances are that you would have to go to the hospital if you got COVID? And Democrats thought that was way higher than Republicans. 41% of Democrats, and the answer is between 1% and 5%.
Okay.
41% of Democrats thought it was over 50%. Another 28% thought it was 20 to 49%. So 70% of Democrats thought it was way, way, way higher than it really was. Liberal media has to take a little responsibility for that, for scaring the shit out of people. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's much harder for every touring act to sell tickets in blue states.
Oh, interesting.
They're afraid to go out of the house.
I see.
Whereas in red states, it's all good to go. So I just want to say to those people in San Rafael and Pittsburgh and New York, I ain't going to give it to you. I promise. It's safe. We're doing everything we can. There's distancing. There's masking. Enjoy. Live life.
You did get it in
Embrace
May.
life.
You did get it.
I got it after I was vaccinated.
You got it after you were vaccinated, right? And you wouldn't.
And I had no symptoms. That may be because I was vaccinated, but let's not even get into that, because I know you and your boyfriend, Howard Stern, are very paranoid about this. But it's a little weird that I got it after. But now many, many, many people have had that same situation.
Yes. I know people very well who have.
Look.
The guy that I was talking about, my cousin, he also was vaccinated. So it happens a lot.
Wait. So he had the vaccine already.
Yeah.
Went to Nigeria, and then still caught COVID.
Yeah, and he struggled for like a week.
Did he catch just like the normal variant or the Delta or?
I don't think he knows.
Okay.
That's another thing where it's like I don't know if they're. But my understanding is they're not really tracking. They're not always tracking whether it was the Delta or the regular variant. But yeah, that's another thing that people really need to understand, that the death rate, it is a very virulent disease, but the death rate is nowhere as the media make it seem. Now that doesn't mean you wouldn't get long-term effects of COVID, which is still don't want. You still don't want to catch this thing. So these are things that you really have to put into account. But I thought it was interesting the statistics he threw out of how the liberal media has managed to scare liberals. I mean, to the point that they think. I mean, what was the number? He said 70%, 70% chance of dying or something.
I mean, like
that is not the case. I mean, if you look at the data, that doesn't even. It's not even close.
I mean, like one thing I'll just say about how people are scared, and how there are all this blue, red divides and things like that is, I mean, without really saying this, I'll just say it. I feel in many ways the whole thing got polarized in a way it should not get polarized. And one thing I'll say is, Trump, with all his issues, his madness, his craziness and everything, at the end of the day, if we're to tell the truth, in many ways, the way they initially reacted to COVID and its coverage was to make Trump look bad. I don't know. I don't even know how.
The same Joy Ann Reid, before Trump was out of office, she had promoted vaccine hesitancy.
Same with Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris had said, "Look, we don't know if we'll be able to trust this vaccine," while he was in office.
Yeah.
And then he gets out of office, Biden is in office, and then all of a sudden they're trying to turn things around on people.
Exactly.
They were promoting vaccine hesitancy, and their justification was that because Trump was in office.
Exactly.
How can you call yourself a journalist without no objectivity whatsoever?
I mean, one thing I would say, and this is just speaking about journalism in general, is journalism in this country is going through a serious crisis. And
I think Trump broke the media.
Yeah. I mean, there is no doubt that Trump broke it. And one other thing in general is that, I mean, how do I put this? There are many things which the media faces. Like, I think I've said this before. I believe, it was January 2019, actually. I came to Washington, D.C. back then for a conference, and I listened to a panel by Steve Forbes of Forbes magazine fame. And he made a very interesting observation, and I'll take his word seriously because obviously that's his whole industry.
Yep.
And he basically said that the reason why it seems like the media is out of tune and seems berserk is there's a huge level of insecurity in the whole media industry. That there seems to be like many upstarts, because if we should look at how things have been in this country traditionally, probably until the last 20, 30 years, there probably normally were always 2 or 3 main media channels like
CBS,
ABC, NBC, CBS,
and all the information was channeled through them.
And those people were effective at building consensus. But
but now you have the internet, which has to an extent democratized media.
Exactly.
There are different other alternate media outlets popping up. Look, I'll tell you, I follow all these big guys. I follow them all on Twitter, so I know what they're saying. But I also have many other alternative sources that I use. I follow the Foxes, I follow the MSNBC, CNN, I follow them, all of them, because I want to know, what's going on in all these different echo chambers. But I think the biggest impact really is online, in the internet.
Actually, just two more quick things I would say is one thing which I feel has badly happened in American journalism, and I feel it both applies to the so-called conservative and liberal media
Yeah.
is activists who pretend that they're objective people. Now, let me expand what I mean. The whole pitch of, let's say, a channel like CNN is they're meant to be a news source.
The most trusted news source.
Exactly. But the truth about the matter is we all know that they have their leanings. And I'll just say like to be safe here, is that in many ways, I actually do not have a problem if news sources have a leaning.
Yeah.
In fact, if news sources are very open about what their leanings are, the better. So, like, okay, for example, take two news sources which I read almost every day: the Daily Signal and the Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Both are very open that, look, these are our leanings and this is where we are. They say it unapologetically that over here we are promoting an agenda.
I follow the Daily Wire too.
Exactly. If you do not like it, you can go away. At least that level of
upfront
is very good. But I feel that where things go wrong is whereby some of these news organizations try to pretend to be what they're not. And
so most people already they're kind of hip to the CNNs, the MSNBCs. Where people are still confused, AP, Reuters. I'm not saying all their writings and editorials are biased, but there's some that are biased that come across like they're giving you straight news. Even AP picked up the Nicki Minaj story. I saw AP ran a headline on it. They're all trying to get in on the clickbait. AP used to be one of the most trusted. That's where all the news sources go to.
Which comes back to what we're saying about a feeling of insecurity in the news media. When AP, like
Associated Press, by the way, for those wondering.
When AP and Reuters know that they're competing against the Daily Wire, the Daily Signal, Breitbart, Red State,
and their numbers, those guys are doing numbers,
and exactly, they are competing against those numbers. The temptation to get very clickbaity.
Yes, and I think that's what happens. They get clickbaity, and they figure they already have an audience. They want to keep their audience.
Exactly.
And a lot of the people within these news outlets, a lot of them also have biases of their own. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
They're not. They're not always the most objective. The New York Times is another one that I also felt like, even though they still do good reporting, but
the New York Times today is controlled by activists.
A lot, yeah. It's Barry Weiss showed us that. I think we talked about that in one of our previous podcasts, where Barry Weiss just said, "Look, the editorial board has been taken over by activists, and these are the kind of stories that they're running with."
And one thing I'll just quickly drop is, in my own opinion, ideally, the way the ideal media ecosystem should be is, as much as possible, there needs to be a few of those news channels in the middle, which try their best to keep objectivity.
Just give the news nothing
and
more.
Then you can have
nothing more.
And then you can have the ones like, the Daily Wire or Vox or things like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think people are already they already know about CNN. So during the Trump administration, the MSNBCs and CNNs, they were really exposed for what they really were. I don't think MSNBC even tries to really hide it like that anymore. They haven't since the days of Keith Olbermann, and I've been watching cable news for a very long time. Trust me. It's the other publications. NPR is another one that I was really shocked. And I don't know, maybe because I was in a bubble at the time, but I felt like NPR was the one source that was going to give it to you straight. They're very, very biased. Very biased. And people get their daily news. So that's where some people get all their news.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do realize that there's other sides of the story that you don't hear. And that's what we saw with this Nicki Minaj story. they did nothing to show the parts where she recommended
That
the
people
vaccine.
take the vaccine, absolutely.
And you would think if you're really trying to do good, you would focus on that. You would spend more time on that
Than the other things.
than the swollen balls fiasco. The heck, you're clickbaiting. You're clickbaiting people. It's really sad. And yes, people would see it and they'll crack jokes, but a lot of people are too busy. They're not. People are living their lives. So
Corey, that's
all they're
also
seeing
something
is
else.
Nicki Minaj is talking about swollen balls, and they move on, and it registers in their head and in their mind. They look at Nicki Minaj. She's one of these people. She has turned to one of these conspiracy theorists without realizing that that's really not what happened.
That's not what she said.
It's a character assassination.
Absolutely.
Like,
And
there are a lot of Nigerians that follow all these people. That's why I have to make this clear that this is an example.
And
read the other side of the stories.
And one thing I would also add, and we really need to cover this whole aspect.
Yeah.
Is black celebrities as influencers.
And we'll get to that. I think we should get to that. We should take a quick break.